share, as well as drop your questions below, right? This is open. We're here to kind of help one another learn and to get things started. Again, we are talking about, you know, is basically the question, are you sabotaging your success? And if you are, 5 steps so you don't have to do that, right? So I'm going to give folks just a few moments to hop on because sometimes we rush to get to where we need to be. But that is just fine, right? So let's jump right in with the first step, right? So the first step and overcoming the imposter syndrome, well, overcoming that inner critic, which can cause imposter syndrome, is to be able to recognize a voice. You know, it's basically is that nagging voice inside of your head that fills you up with self-doubt and it undermines your confidence, saying things like, you're not good enough, you're juggling too much, you're not doing enough, you need to work harder, you're not a good mother, you don't spend enough time with your kids, you're not even a great worker, you're not, you're not even fulfilling your job there, everybody else is much more qualified than you'll never get that promotion. you know you know what, is this the only place you've come in your career? You've been at this long enough. You should be way further down the road than you are now. All of those inner critic voice, just criticizing over and over again. That is that inner critic voice. So, the solutions. How do we tackle that inner critic voice so that it doesn't sabotage us and undermine us? So, the first thing is to pay attention to your thought patterns, right? Especially in situations where you feel insecure, because it can really kick in at that point. It really does. I know for me, it did. I was in the military 6.5 years, and it wasn't until, oh my gosh, about 5.5 or so years in that I started to lose that inner critic voice, but I was very critical of myself. No one else needed to criticize me because I was just doing it all myself and undermining my own self. So, notice when you start engaging in negative self-talk, thoughts and talk. That is so important. It is so important. And then another tip is to just give your inner critic a name. Give it a persona. Give it kind of like a silly name or something. You've heard people say negative Nancy. That's labeling an inner critic voice, right? So of course you can find a new one, but negative Nancy pops to mind because that's literally labeling that inner critic voice, right? And so what this does, and the reason why it works, is it creates a mental distance between you and the inner critic voice, which makes it easier. It makes it a lot easier to address the influence that it gives when it's criticizing you and to be able to manage its influence, right? And so the second step is to do practice self compassion, right? You do want to practice self compassion. Treat yourself with the same amount of kindness and empathy that you would offer to a close friend, right? Here's the thing. If you wouldn't tell a friend, you're stupid, you're worthless, what an idiot, nobody's going to promote you, you're a miserable mother. If you wouldn't say any of those things to your friend, then don't say it to yourself. Why would you say it to yourself, right? And people say, well, I don't know. I've just heard it all the time. No, pay attention, label the voice, get that mental distance in there, and then start changing how you talk to yourself, right? And so, again, we're talking solutions here. Acknowledge your struggles. Definitely acknowledge your struggles and your imperfections, but do it without judgment, right? So it's not like you're an idiot. How could you make that kind of mistake? No, it's like, I made a mistake. The next time I'll do better, right? Again, acknowledge what you're struggling with, right? You definitely want to do that. I struggle with procrastination. I'm the world's biggest procrastinator, or I used to be the world's biggest procrastinator because I'm not where I used to be, and I'm always getting better each and every day. Now, my clients are probably like, oh, nah, but I do. I struggle with that. So I have my list and I have these systems in place so that when I'm procrastinating, I call it out. You're sitting here procrastinating and you're looking at this phone because you don't want to do that. I call it out. And when I call it out, I have to make a decision. I either choose to continue procrastinating, or I choose to get done what I need to get done. Again, it's about acknowledging your struggles and imperfections because we all have them. We really do. Now, when you notice that that inner critic voice is becoming active, ask yourself this: would I speak to my friend this way? Would I speak to my mom this way? Would I speak to my daughter this way? Would I speak to my son this way? Right? And so, do engage also in self care practices that nurture your body and your soul, such as exercise and meditation or spending time with loved ones, right? And spend some time alone as well. That's just as important. Now, those of us who are introverts, and I'm an introvert, I admit that, we need a little bit, sometimes a lot more time alone than folks who are extroverts or those of us who are ambiverts. We're a little extrovert and a little introvert as well. Okay. And then the third step is definitely you want to challenge negative thoughts. Become aware of when you start doubting your abilities, and then take a moment to just pause and reflect on the validity. Like, reflect, like, is it really true? Am I really an idiot? Like, am I truly worthless? Right? When you hear those thoughts, step back and start challenging them. Again, when you giving them a name like negative Nancy, you know, Perfect Patty. You see that we were watching Why Did I Get Married? So Perfect Patty, Janet Jackson make that comment or call herself she was Perfect Patty in the movie, but give it a name, call that name out, right? And then again, it's typically when we're insecure, we're doubting ourselves. Pause and then, like, ask yourself, is this true? Is it, I mean, I know I'm thinking this, but is it really true? Because just because you have a thought does not make it true. It doesn't. We have 50 to 90,000 thoughts that pass through our head every day, right? They're not all true. So challenge it, right? Practice on reframing these thoughts into a more positive, constructive statement. You heard me do that a moment ago. I said, I'm the world's biggest procrastinator. I was like, actually, not so much anymore. All right. I'm telling you, I'm getting better. I have my systems in place. So it's about reframing those words because, I do believe that you speak into existence who you are. So I was like, nah, I'm not the world's biggest procrastinator anymore. Now, I used to procrastinate weeks on things, but I've gotten so much better, right? So much better with my system. Anybody else out there procrastinate? Am I the only one? Am I the only one that's a procrastinator? Don't leave me hanging by myself. But yeah, sometimes we do. And the root of that tends to be anxiety, right? And so coaches are very good at walking you through that process. And this is, it's something that I work with my clients on because I know how badly I used to procrastinate. And so I do understand that journey. Right. And so some of the examples of how you reframe thoughts, instead of saying, I'll never be good enough, tell yourself, you heard me do this a few moments as well. I'm constantly improving, and every day I'm getting better and better. I'm capable of success, right? And so I immediately said it, and then I switched it because I did that reality check. Like, actually, you're not. You're way better than you used to. And again, question the evidence behind your negative thoughts, and also practice positive affirmations. Okay, to when you do that, if you practice positive affirmations, you can counteract the inner critic's messages, right? Positive affirmations, especially just like those that I have in my new book. I have an affirmations journal. It's titled Melanated Magic 180 affirmations to nurture your soul and unleash your black girl joy. Now, you can pick up a copy of that from Amazon today, and it is also on Kindle Unlimited. I'm going to drop that in the comments in a couple of different places so you can get that. Let me turn my sound off so I don't have that competing sound over here. But you'll definitely want to get a copy. It's chock full. Again, it's 180 different affirmations. So it's more than enough to tickle your fancy and definitely find some you like. I've tried to figure out which one was my best, which was my favorite. I just don't have one. I actually have several, which is great. And that's the whole purpose of it, right? To repeat those affirmations so that you start to change that inner critic voice, right? That's the whole purpose of it. Okay. So definitely you'll want to practice whatever positive affirmations you have. Again, you can pick up my book and let me try to bring that up over here. Anybody else have problems with their Mac sticking? Um, when I go into different sites, it's getting stuck. It's getting stuck a lot in Google Chrome. Let me know if anybody else out there is having those issues. It's kind of weird, right? Very much weird that it's doing that right now, right? So, I'm not sure where we're going with this. Well, I'll get that link out there to you. All right, so let's go on with number 4. The fourth step here is to definitely set realistic goals, right? Or intentions. I am someone who likes to set intentions. I used to be a goal maniac. I'm honest. All right, I'm honest. I'm honest with you today. So now I find that setting intentions are much gentler. And so, do use that SMART framework when we're talking about setting goals or setting your intentions. They should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant to what you're doing, relevant to something you want to do, of course, right? And they should be have a time on them rather than saying, at some point, someday I'm gonna start walking, da 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 da. No, you'll want to have a time on it. Give it a time. It gives you a little bit of push, a little bit of motivation to get it done, right? And also, it's important to celebrate your success, right? It is so much easier when you celebrate your success because you kind of get the adrenaline going, you get a little extra hormones in there. It kind of feels good, right? That's why it feels good. They tell you to make up your bed every day. The first thing you do is make up your bed, right? Because you give your brain a shot of dopamine because you started something, you finish it, you get a little shot of dopamine. So when you make small incremental successes and progress, congratulate yourself because it gives you that little boost of dopamine and that makes us feel good, right? It makes us definitely makes us feel good. And that's why you want to do that. So you don't have to wait until you get the whole thing finished or like these gargantuan goals. No, every small step, medium step, big step, and in between step is important. Right. And that way you're validating yourself. You're not just depending on other folks to validate you. You are actually validating yourself. Right. And also remember that as human beings, the majority of us, we underestimate what we can complete in an entire year. We underestimate that. We tend to overestimate what we can get done in a week. Right. And so that's the point why you're always want to chunk, whatever you're doing, whatever strategies you're using, if you're doing intentions or you're doing goals, chunk those down into small bite-sized pieces because it's easy to overestimate what you can get done in a week. But we get to people start getting into the end of the year and they start taking that reflection. I didn't get this done, I didn't get that done. Well, if you chunk everything down to small bite-sized pieces, you can actually get way more done than you think. All right. And step number 5 is to seek support and accountability. Right. That final step is seek support and accountability. Accountability partners are great. I'm in a coaching group now. Every Wednesday, we have about an hour and a half coaching session, and we're all being accountable. Here's what I said I would do. Here's what I actually got done. Here's the percentages of things I actually got done, right? And it keeps me on track. It's like there's no procrastinating there. Because every week I'm going in and say, here's what I got done, here's what I intended, and I also say, here's what I plan on doing next week. So it's a really great way when you seek support and have accountability. You want to surround yourself with the folks in a very supportive network of family, friends, mentors, and coaches and therapists, right? And again, having that accountability part, it just helps you stay on track and it helps you stay motivated because when I go in and I get things done, and sometimes it's a push. It's like, oh, I'm really pushed to get like I gotta get this done, I gotta get this done among the other things I'm doing. But it feels so good. And I do take time to reward myself for finishing. It's so important to do that. It is extremely important to do that. Right. And now again, that's why many folks, because sometimes we don't always have people in our lives that are like they're happy for us, but maybe not happy in a space where they can push you to stretch and do more. And that's the value of investing in a good coach, because your coach will stretch you and they will have, they'll support you and go on that little extra bit of difference, right? And again, so in conclusion, we're talking about the 5 steps to stop that inner critic war. So we want to overcome the inner critic that can self-sabotage us, right? And it prevents you from self-sabotaging. Because how many of you have had a project? Because I know this was so mean in college. Oh my gosh. In college, in the first couple of jobs I got out of the military, big project. I was more than capable of doing it, but I procrastinated, dragged my feet. I cleaned out my closets. I organized. I did everything in the world but the steps to get that project done. And then as the deadline came and I had this project that wasn't completed in a manner that I would have wanted it completed. It's just kind of like half done, close to being half done, and then you start beating yourself up. That's a cycle that you can get into when you listen to your inner critic voice, right? And so using these 5 steps, you can pull yourself back from that inner cycle, into that cycle of criticizing yourself, undermining and self-sabotaging yourself and go, I could have did better than what I've done. And then you beat yourself up and then you start over. No, by following these 5 steps, you can silence the inner critic voice and pave the way for a more positive and fulfilling life. And remember, the inner critic is not an invincible foe. You have the ability. It's a part of you that you can manage and transform it into a supportive ally. So, thank you so much for being here, for joining me today. And for all of you, so many of you catch me on the replay. Thank you as well for that. And if you found this session helpful, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button or hit that like button. Drop a comment and let me know what you thought about this, right? And do go ahead and subscribe for more content on personal growth and success. I will see you in the next session, the next live. Take care. Bye bye.